Hi, welcome. Today we've got Kade Grundy, 2021 right-hand pitcher and outfielder from Somerset High School in Somerset, Kentucky. Former member of the 17U Canes national team. Going to go down and sign with Louisville to play in the ACC. Appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Appreciate you having me.
Sure. Yeah, so for those who don't know who Kade Grundy is, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm an 18-year-old senior at Somerset High School. I play baseball, basketball, and football, and my school's fairly small. I got a brother who used to play college baseball, now works down here, and I got a younger brother who is in middle school, and my dad also played professional baseball.
So it's in the blood, right?
Yeah, he try to get us all the way up. Everybody tries to get us to all play baseball and try to be that's the best sport we can play at.
So put a little plug in for Dad. What was his career like? Where did he play? And then talk a little bit about your brother.
He went to Somerset as well, and he I don't believe he got drafted out of high school, but he ended up going to Western Carolina, and he played 3 years there, and he went to the Super Regional, I believe, 2 years with them, and got drafted 4th round by the Kansas City Royals, and was in the minor leagues his entire career, got all the way up to AAA, and just never got that chance to play in the big leagues. But he played for, I think, 10 years in the minors, and then my older brother went to Kentucky for a year for school, and then ended up going to Georgia Southern for 2 years to try to play baseball down there. Now he's working selling insurance down here with my dad back in Somerset. So
It eventually ends for guys, you know. There's always that transition after baseball.
yes, sir.
So walk me through your recruiting process. There's always some highs and lows. What were some of the high points, if you remember back, to how it all went down for you?
Well, I as an 8th grader, I didn't expect any looks like that from especially from a big college such as Louisville. But we were playing a Lexington school, and we had our first baseman who's at Kentucky now, Trey Harmon. They came down to watch him, my brother, and one of our corner infielders who ended up going to play JUCO somewhere. And I played pretty good or whatever. As an 8th grader, I didn't expect much. I played second base at the time, and I made an error early in the game, and Louisville said they liked it. They liked how I came back from that, because since my dad's my head coach and he gets into me a lot, and the way I handled that as a 14, 15-year-old kid showed my maturity as a 8th grader. And then I ended up coming into pitch to close out that game, and had just threw 1 inning, had 3 strikeouts on 11 pitches or something, and they ended up getting me up there for a visit about a week later, and they offered me when I was up there.
So in the 8th grade, you know, guys, that's pretty young to have that kind of activity happening. What was going through your mind? Did you know they were there looking? Did you have an idea that they might give you or talk to you afterwards?
I had no clue that were there. After I pitched, my dad talked to me about it, because he played baseball against Dan McDonnell, Louisville's head coach. Dan went to Citadel, and they played each other for 3 years basically. And he called ahead and told them that Coach Snyder, their recruiting guy and their third base coach, was going to be there for the game. And he didn't tell anybody who that they were going to be there, but after the game, I had to go talk to my dad, and he said that they wanted to get me up there for a visit. So it was kind of shocking to me that nobody knew on our team that they were there to watch us play.
Yeah, for sure. So what kind of measurables are you putting up in the 8th grade? Normally it takes, you know, some numbers or something to get coaches to come watch you play. What were your measurables then, and what's been the progression since then? And well, let's go with the pitching first as a right-hand pitcher.
As a 8th grader, velocity wise, I was probably sitting 84, 85 as an 8th grader, especially in the summer. And they found me, they came and saw our team later in our season, a month away from summer ball starting. So, but from there, my progression as a pitcher, getting better command for fastballs, getting better command for off speed changeups, and working on new pitches, just try to do all that. Because as an 8th grader, I didn't have a good changeup. I didn't have a great slider, but I could throw strikes, and
Just through
that's what
gas,
they were looking for. Yeah, just looking for easy command. because everything else can come along with that as long as you can throw strikes.
Sure. So walk me through some of that progression. What did you do? I mean, obviously you're pretty gifted. You're throwing mid 80s in the 8th grade. What kind of throwing programs were you doing? Who was helping you out? What were you doing?
Um, since I don't have a legitimate off season because I play 3 sports year round, I just did long throwing at the end of during football season, and then into basketball season, try to get my arm healthy so I wouldn't just jump right into throwing, and that's how arm injuries happen. But my dad puts me, all the kids who play other sports, and all the baseball players through a long throwing program. We throw about 3 to 4 times a week, and we continually add distance in between. And then about once a month, we'll do some pull downs to see what the velocity is looking like and see how much it jumps from month to month. And that's basically all I do. I didn't start weightlifting until last year for all that.
So was your dad a pitcher? Is that what he did?
Yeah, he was a pitcher.
Okay, so you got a former pro guy that's
Yeah.
got your mechanics smoothed out and helping you walk. That's a plus for sure. What about in the outfield? What were some of the measurables that maybe piqued some coaches' interest in the outfield?
I didn't until till junior year. I didn't start playing outfield. I was a shortstop coming up, and knowing like that I was going to pitch in college as well. I knew I wasn't going to be able to be an everyday shortstop guy, and I realized that the better position for me, if I want to play both sides of the ball, like pitch and play outfield, I wanted to play a corner outfield. But for my high school team and for the summer teams, I used to play for the Cincinnati Spikes before I played for the Canes. I played center, and their head coach for the Spikes was an outfielder in college, and a lot of the guys they had come in and help played college, and they played outfield as well. And they helped me with my footwork. They helped me with all my mechanics and trying to get a better arm motion out there, which came easy with being a pitcher. I mean, having a decent arm out there is always helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as a former pitcher myself, man, having guys that can throw guys out, that's a plus, right?
Yeah, just trying to save runs.
So what about 60 times and exit velocity? Where were you in the 8th grade and how has that got better?
It's I think my 60 time as an 8th grader might have been like a 7 flat, maybe a 6.9, but high 6.9s. But exit velocity was I think around 87, 88 was the best I got then with a drop 5. So I mean, it probably helped a little bit, but and then that progressed over time because I started getting in weightlifting programs. I started doing some agility stuff with football, with basketball, and I have a trainer that I go to 3 times a week as well in the mornings, and we work with footwork stuff and agility and takeoff because I used to have a bad false step, and that probably helped. That took off a countless amount of seconds, and it was just slowed me down a little bit. But I progressed. I don't know what I'm up to. I'm my average 60 times probably about a 6.8 now, which is right about where I need to be.
Play multiple sports. Was that something that the coaches were interested in?
Yeah, they talked to me early as an 8th grader. They knew I played 3 sports, and coming in, I talked to their strength coach, their head coach, and all that stuff. And they said they can tell when players played multiple sports based on the athletic ability they have coming in, and they think that helps them long term. Especially, it doesn't matter if you're a pitcher or position player, your athletic ability seems to stand out. You can jump off the mound, make a play athletically, or make a diving play in the outfield and stuff like that.
Any scholarship offers or a chance to play at the next level at any of the other sports?
I have 2 offers in football from Western Michigan and Central Michigan. And then I was able to send tape, my film for basketball to Arkansas and a couple other smaller Division I schools. And I always wanted to, like as an 8th grader, I talked to my parents about it. I was like, I want to get 3 Division I scholarships in each sport and see how we can go from there. It's kind of a milestone I wanted to have, but I didn't get able to get an offer in basketball. But
sure. So what position you play?
In football, I'm a receiver, and in basketball, I'm a point guard.
So what's the best game? What kind of numbers you putting up?
Well, in basketball right now, coming into it, I'm our 2nd all-time leading scorer. Average about 20 a game. And then in football,
Baby,
we had we won our state championship last year. We didn't make it this year. we lost about 24 seniors the year before, but we won state, and I think I'm second all time in receiving yards and like eighth or something in receptions or something. But it's been pretty fun, yeah, playing three sports.
So you commit as an eighth grader. So I'm assuming that puts a little bit of pressure, maybe a little spotlight on you with other guys, because most guys are, they're even freshmen's young, and 80% of the guys are going sophomore, junior year. So how have you dealt with that? Has that added a little pressure, and how have you dealt with trying to live up to that?
It did when it first happened. There was a lot of pressure, like, because as an eighth grader, that's a lot. Like, as soon as I committed, everybody knew, especially around the state. They knew who I was then, and if I didn't play good, they would be like, "Yeah, he's not good enough. He's too young. He's not mature enough to get that offer." But like, I respect Louisville that they saw that I had something to give and had a bunch of room to improve, and they saw that ahead of time and gave me a chance to commit early. But yeah, it put a lot of pressure, but now I'm pretty used to it and it's not too bad. Even in basketball and football, that just because I'm a Louisville commit in baseball, they still put high standards on me in those other two sports.
Sure. So when you look back at your process, and obviously, was there much of a recruiting process prior to the Louisville commit? Was there, because most guys are emailing or calling coaches or going to camps, and they spend like a year through this process, going through the grind. Did you go through that earlier than everybody, or did it just kind of just as soon as you started, man, it happened?
I didn't go through any sort of process with recruiting. My when our first baseman, who's at Kentucky now, he tried to talk to them. I think Mingione at the time, he's still there, to see if they would offer me, and they weren't sold on it because I was an eighth grader. Like I said, I mean, not a lot of people were at the time. And then Louisville came to watch us play. I played good. They got me up there probably 5 days later, and they offered me 5 days later, and I committed on the spot. So I didn't really go through much of a process. I hadn't have decisions to make. I knew where wanted to go, and it was Louisville.
Yeah, it's not a very difficult process when they're knocking on the door, right?
No.
So walk me through the event. So you play well. Did they reach out to the coach and say, hey, have him call me at this time? How did that phone call go? Did they talk to you after the game? What was the process like there? But when they asked you to come on the visit?
So as soon as our high school game got over with, my dad went and talked to Coach Snyder, and we were all getting our stuff out of the dugout, getting behind the dugout so they can talk to us after the game. And he brought me off to the side and told me that, hey, Louisville was at the game and they want you to come up for a visit in this coming week. And we had a good time planned. I was going to miss school that day, go up there for a visit, and go play my game later that day. We played some team about 30 minutes away, and so I got a text from Coach Snyder about everything I need to bring, like just anything, just to be prepared, because it was going to be a long time. I was up there for 4 hours, went through everything on the campus, showed me everything, had to show video of like the Omaha process and all that stuff, and I got to sit in the coach's office for about 30 minutes, and he talked to me about all the plans, how they're supposed to add on to everything, and then he offered me a certain amount of scholarship, and I committed 30 seconds after he offered it. So
Yes, I'll shake your hand right now.
yeah.
So let me walk back. So your dad, you're after the game. Dad says, "Hey, Louisville wants you to come down on a visit." Tell me about that conversation and the drive home that night. Are you just like, are you dancing in the car, or is it what are you feeling as an eighth grader, man?
Well, at the time, because I didn't see a coach there. Like I thought my dad's, he's good at playing jokes like that. He'll do that to me once in a while. He did it when I was when I was in middle school. He would say that a lot. And so I didn't really necessarily believe him. So I didn't get super excited at the time. But after on the ride home, I got a text from Coach Snyder about everything. So, and that's what made it real. And it was pretty overwhelming. I was in shock, kind of just, that's a big step for me as a 14, 15-year-old kid that had no intention of getting a recruitment that early in my life. And it was awesome for me.
So you kind of walk through the visit, but for maybe a player that's never been on a college visit, what time did you show up? Kind of slowly walk me through kind of what happens on that day. What during the tour, and do you get to meet the players, or what do you see the facilities? Walk me through that day.
So for me, I got up there about, I think about 10:30 in the morning, and they were playing Florida State that day. So and Florida State was good at the time. And that was Brendan McKay's, I believe, junior year, right before he got drafted. And so we went up there, we checked in with the secretary or whoever was at the front desk, and went through the locker room, and met all the players, met all the staff, the physical guys that will tape you before games, everything like that. We saw where they eat before games and how they cater in food. We saw they have two sets of batting cages. They have some underneath the locker room, which is the short cages, and then they have these outdoor cages right next to the bullpens, which is more longer cages. But then we walked over to the Thornton Center, which is a part of the football stadium, which is where I'll get tutored. That's where my school will be taking place, especially online, and that's where I can eat at any time of the day. And that's where my supervisor is, like school with grades and everything. I can talk to them about changing my major, classes, need help with classes, need more tutoring, and all times like that. So I was there for probably 5 hours, it felt like, and then I got there and I got to see him take BP. I got to see the pitchers warm up, and I got to see Brendan McKay hit 10 swings, 10 out, and it was pretty awesome.
So were you there? Were you there by yourself? Were there other guys there on doing a similar process?
I was the only player there. I was there with my mom, dad, and my little brother. That was the only player there at the time.
So walk me through the end. So this is kind of where it gets kind of real, like where you're meeting in the coach's office with the palms a little moist. You get a little frog in the throat. Was it pretty tough for an eighth grader?
Yeah, so I talked with the team chaplain right before I went in there, and he was talking about this, how he's talked to a bunch of players that have went through this process, and how it's awesome to think about and everything. He said make sure you talk to him. He's like, shake his hand, look him in the eye, and stuff like that, just to try to be engaged. And as an eighth grader, you don't as an eighth grader for me, I wasn't always with all those good social cues. I wouldn't make good eye contact. I'd be shy to talk to him. But I got in there, and I had to wait for about 10 minutes because he was still on the field. The head Coach McDonald was still on the field with the team because they were warming up for the game. And I was in there, and he's got all of his super regional rings on the desk. It's just a bunch to take in. I mean, a team with that history is just crazy for me. So he comes in there, shows me all these pamphlets about everything, how they're adding on to the stadium, how there's going to be more dorms for us to stay in, more seats for fans and everything. And then he told me, he's like, here's the amount of scholarship money you're going to get and how we're going to give it to you and all that stuff. And I said yes, basically directly after he offered me that.
So then you go out and you're watching the game. Then the game happened.
Well, they were taking. They just, as soon as I committed, I shook his hand. We all went outside. We took pictures with. I took pictures with him, and then we went on the field. And they were just now finishing up BP, and I had a game later that night. So as soon as they had to finish BP, I had to get out of there and drive another hour and a half back and play a game that we ended up winning by like 6 or 7. But it was cool because.
Go ahead.
It was cool because as soon as I got off, I didn't get to drive the bus with the team, and they knew where I was. And my brother was a junior at the time, and he thought it was because he wasn't able to come with me, and he thought it was super cool, and he was happy for me. But it was just, I was glad to play baseball that day because I felt I was all jacked up for everything.
So talk to me about the car ride. You got an hour and a half ride there on the way home. You just, as an eighth grader, committed to the University of Louisville. What's the conversation like with mom and dad?
I was pretty exhausted, but as soon as we got in the car, for about the first 20 minutes, right before I fell asleep in the car on the ride there, they were about as excited as I was, and talking about how they couldn't believe that I was, and this already happened this early in my baseball career, and how I was just in the right spot at the right time, really. I mean, if they didn't come to that game, I know telling how long it would have been until I got recruited, maybe another year or so. But it's crazy how that was. But my parents were talking about how they're glad I committed here. It's only 2 hours away from home. They're going to be able to come to most games at home and stuff like that. And how most of my family's going to be able to come up there, and that he's good friends with Coach McDonald, and this is the right place for me. They were all super excited for me.
So there's guys out there that start the process early. How are you sure that you made the right decision? Because a lot of those guys end up decommitting, and then they commit someplace else, and then they commit someplace else because they were so early. It was too early really for them to kind of make that decision, or the coach decommit, or says, hey, we're going to pull that off, or we got to go someplace else. How do you think you were able to put it all together and make that good call?
Well, as a middle school kid, before I was in 8th grade, I went up there for camps and stuff. And my dad has always wanted me to go up there for camps. I used to go to games quite a bit because my dad knew the coach very well. And when I got up there for a visit, I knew that Coach McDonald just got on a 10-year deal, that he'll be there for a while. Cause a lot of schools have the issue where a kid commits and the coach ends up taking another job, and that offer is kind of up in the air. So they don't know really what they're going to do. So they decide to make a different decision. But I knew I thought it was more perfect timing for me that I was going to be there, and his deal would still be going on when I graduate. So
Sure.
I think he'll be there for a while. And like I said, it's 2 hours away. My family's going to be able to come up there, and it's in state. And I think it was the best decision I could have made.
So how does it work after that? So now you're committed. You're playing. You say you're playing with which was the travel team you're playing with at the time?
Cincinnati Spikes out of Mason,
Cincinnati
Ohio.
Spikes. So how do you plan where you're playing, what you're doing, how you're progressing? Because most of the time, guys in those next 2 or 3 years, they're doing all that in order to get in front of coaches, to try to get scholarships, and that's in the bag now. So what was your focus as you played for the Spikes and then moved on to play for the Canes National? What were some of the events you were trying to get to, or talk to me about those next few years?
So that year was my first year of like really playing competitive summer ball. Until up to that year, I was playing around here. I was playing in tournaments out of Lexington, Nicholasville, just close to less than an hour away. And so I knew that I needed to play for a wider, play for teams that are going out of the state, going to play in Georgia, Cincinnati, and Alabama, Florida, and making those trips, because that's where all the big time coaches will be. And not knowing that I was going to commit that early, and it was just unexpected for me, but I went in there, and the coaches were super excited because, I mean, you don't hear of an 8th grader committing that early. And I came in there and knowing that I'm already committed, but I got our Curtis Reed, who played for the Spikes with us. He's a shortstop who's committed to Louisville too. Louisville came and watched me play in Cincinnati. Curtis had a great tournament. He committed the next week to Louisville, which he's my roommate. Now he's going to be my roommate in school. I played summer ball hit with him for the past 4 years. He
Oh,
played with
that's
the Spikes, and
fantastic.
he played with the Canes with me last summer. So it all ended up working out, and playing for the Spikes, just trying to get better my game, because I respected those coaches. They knew what they were talking about. They knew how to increase my velocity with me, how to help my mechanics as well, and get me in front of the right people to try to help me with my game and progression throughout that. And then it was a tough decision to switch to the Canes for me last year, because I've played 3 years with the Spikes, and I had a great time the entire time. I knew I made great friendships with all those kids. But in my opinion, I thought the Canes would be best for me to try to maybe get on some more professional teams' radars and try to get in front of them, because especially with all the talent that the Canes had last year, I knew that there were going to be uh, a bunch of pro teams at every game, no matter who we played, no matter where we played. There's going to be guys there to watch, and that's what I thought I needed to get in front of and try to get in front of the right people.
So who were your coaches there with the Canes?
So we had Jeff Petty, and we had Coach Mills. he played underneath Roger Williams, who's Louisville's pitching coach now at East Carolina, and he was our pitching coach, and he helped me a ton. He's got really great energy, and I've never seen that really out of a coach to get that much into it. And he'll get into you if you shake off a pitch or something because he thinks he knows what to call in what situation based on the hitter. And I like that out of a coach. I like how he gets into you because you don't want a coach to just be laid back like that. You want him to get after you after you mess up and stuff like that.
So as you're progressing and now you're playing on like one of the main national teams, highly respected, how's the confidence grow as you begin to not only play against those guys but compete, win, show well? How does that help you now that you're playing on that national level with guys who are national prospects?
It helps a ton because you get to see where you are. You get to see where like you stand against other pitchers, against other position players, how you pitch against these certain players. Because I mean, it was a self-esteem boost for me just to be around those guys, to learn what they know, like try to give some advice for them, what they may not know that I know. Like Chase Burns, who threw 100 miles per hour this summer, and seeing what he did before games, how he got ready before games, in between innings and stuff like that. And I took a lot from that because I've never really had a routine like that in between innings. I usually just sit in there, try to keep myself calm. But he used to do some stuff to try to keep his arm from getting stiff and stuff like that, especially if there's a long inning, which we had a lot of because we had a ton of bats in the lineup. So stuff like that, meeting all these guys from California, Florida, Oklahoma, Washington, they're the big time prospects that could go first round, and they probably know a little bit more about some stuff. They've been in the system a little bit longer with say pitching coaches. They get more materials and stuff like that, gloves, everything, and they can get you in front of the right people and give you some numbers of people you can text to try to kind of get on some people's radars.
So talk to me about that. I mean, at that level, what's the level? What's the draft interest right now? Are you doing some Zoom meetings, or are some clubs reaching out? Is that an option for you?
Yeah. As of right now, we have this MLB prospect link that I think everybody on the has to fill out. They give you some questionnaires and some stuff for you to fill out. As of right now, I have 13 teams that are eligible to draft me, because if they don't send me one of those, they can't draft me in the upcoming draft. So hopefully by the end of spring, I'll have close to 25, which I'd be great with. I mean, if I got all of them, that'd be awesome too. But try to keep my head low. But I'll hopefully about 25. But I have yet to do any Zoom calls with people. But that's supposed to be coming up this new year in 2021. But I should be expecting some calls then. But I'm not
Yeah,
100% sure who's gonna.
that's a pretty exciting time, and then that just adds to the decision process. To as you try to make those decisions of going to college, or looking at where you potentially could go in the draft. So what advice would you have? Obviously you didn't go the normal route that most guys go, but there's going to be other guys that are maybe in the same spot. Maybe they've got some good baseball lineage. They're putting up some really high measurables early on in middle school years. They're kind of really standing out amongst the other players. What advice do you have for those guys to try to get to that Power 5 D1 school offer?
You gotta have a good mental, like you can't like let little things get to you, such as a coach yelling at you, like you making a bad play in the field. You got to bounce back super quick because coaches look at that more than about anything. They want a teammate that's going to be able to not take everything he makes on the field to his next at bat, or takes his at bat to the field, makes an error, and just gets down super easily. You want a teammate that's going to pick you up through about everything, and you just want to be super respectful for your coaches. You don't want to cuss out a player, just super unnecessary things. You want to be pretty clean and just try to keep everything to yourself. Like you don't want to just go off on anybody, especially like you don't want to get thrown out of a game and stuff like that. Just simple stuff. Just keep your composure throughout everything.
So what's it like? Obviously, being a kind of a big marquee athlete, really young, it almost puts a target on you. Not even necessarily on the baseball field, but even off the field. At school, you go to a party or something, there's always guys trying to, maybe poke at the guy that's in a newspaper or that's online getting a lot of visibility. How have you handled that? How do you keep cool in those situations, or maybe just avoid those kind of situations?
I don't go out much. I either on my days off, I usually try to go to the gym and work out, or I go to the field, go to the football field and do all that stuff. But I hang out with very small group of people. I'll hang out at my friend's house once a week, once a weekend or whatever, and then come home, do my own thing and just hang out with my family because I'll be gone in a year and I won't be able to see them every day like I do now. And getting closer with them every day is more important than getting closer with a lot of friends. But I don't like getting close with a bunch of people because I don't know. I think a lot of people like me because I'm good at sports, but I've known a lot of people for a long time since I was about kindergarten, which are friendships that I still have to today, and those will probably still be there when I graduate college. So I try to keep
Sure.
my friends close.
So you think we're going to get a high school season in this year? You think it's going to happen with all the COVID?
Yeah, as of right now, because we didn't get a season last year, and I think it'd be really hard for them to cancel this one this year. And if we get a basketball season, we should definitely get a baseball season. Basketball's inside. People are way more close together. Baseball's spread out outside. And it's up to people if they want to come. Like my grandparents won't be coming to any basketball games probably this
Sure.
year because they're terrified of COVID, and I completely understand that. I think we're going to live stream all the games. You can do the
Now, are
same
you
thing with
guys playing
baseball.
now, or did they push the season back towards the spring?
Our first game's in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Our first basketball game's on January 4th, and then our first baseball game is in March or May. We pushed
Okay.
that back. I can't remember. It starts with an M, but everything, and then we'll have another our sports KHAA will have another meeting right before baseball season, depending on if they want to push it back or keep it where it is.
So what's the summer look like after high school? You got any big events coming up?
I don't believe I do. There's a Super 60 during basketball season that I'm not going to be attending because I don't want to do that and not be 100% and get hurt or not show what I want to show. And I don't think I really have anything coming up because after my high school season is over, I won't be playing any summer ball because I go up to Louisville on July 7th.
Okay. Awesome. So what's the goal for basketball this year? You got you trying to break a record? You trying to get a high game in? What are your goals?
I do want to break the record, but I think we can go undefeated this year in our regular season. We're preseason number 2 in our region and I think we should be top 25 in the state, but we will be, I think, later on in the season because more people will see us play, and we got a pretty tough schedule. But as I think I'm like 132 points away from the record, so that should be fairly easy for me to get. But I do want to try to go undefeated in the regular season with the amount of games we have.
Yeah, excellent. So any advice do you have for guys, not only the big name guys, but let's say your average guy who's middle school, freshman, sophomore, kind of just starting that recruiting process, maybe not a Power 5 guy, but just looking to find a spot on the field. Any advice for those guys?
You got to put work in. Like, we have a bunch of kids that just committed recently on my high school team that committed to Midway out of Lexington or some NAIA schools in Tennessee and stuff like that. And those kids love baseball. It doesn't matter where they end up playing. They want to play baseball at the next level, and they're going to do that because the way how much they work, and you want to, as a freshman, sophomore, I think it's the most important thing that I've learned from other kids to get numbers, emails, and follow a bunch of schools on social media and try to get your name out there on their radar and try to get their attention. And hopefully they'll come to see you play. They'll see you at a tournament and they'll like what they see. But you want to make sure to send them some stuff about you and stuff that should intrigue them to try to come and reach out to you. But it doesn't matter if you're not a Power 5 guy. If you love baseball, it doesn't matter where you want to play. You just want to play baseball at the next level. So you got to work at it.
Sure. So what kind of recruiting class do you got coming into Louisville in the 21s? You guys got a group chat going? Do you know most of those guys or talk to them?
Yeah, and I've played like on that USA team 2 years ago. We played in Chicago. I got to meet a bunch of those guys, and I think Louisville will be really good when we get there. I know a couple guys are going to get drafted. So like Dalen Lyle, I do believe he will get drafted fairly early. He's got a really good bat. Curtis Reed will probably end up getting drafted. I'm not sure what he's looking at right now, but I do believe he will get drafted. Austin Bodie, who's a catcher from Indiana, is really good. Ethan Wood, he's very close to me. He's like 45 minutes away from me. We play him twice a year. Big right-handed pitcher. Noah Smith out of Illinois. I think I do believe I think he'll get drafted as well. I think we have a lot of kids that will have to make a decision on draft day if they're going to sign with a pro team or they're going to continue to go to Louisville. So I think our arms and our position players are very good.
So now that you've made that decision, you're a little more educated on Louisville. What's the one thing when you suit up? What's the one thing you're looking forward to when you get there?
Get to Louisville. I don't know. Like I know I've been to a couple games. Like when they played Kentucky at Louisville, the atmosphere's as good as it gets in college baseball. There's people that sit on roofs on the outside of the stadium just to watch the game because it gets sold out fairly quickly when we play big games. And playing Kentucky is one of those big games that it's in all sports over there. Football, basketball, baseball. It's going to be packed out. It's going to be sold out. But the atmosphere there is just crazy, and I think they're going to put me in the best position to improve my game and get me to the next level.
We'll be watching, man. We'll be looking down the pen. Maybe someone warming up down the pen coming in, going to maybe try to save a win or something. We'll look for you. Yeah, so Kade Grundy, 2021 right-hand pitcher, outfielder from Somerset High School in Somerset, Kentucky. 17U Canes national team member, heading off to Louisville to play in the ACC. But I appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Thank you.